Everyone, and welcome. My name is Rebecca Patterson. I'm the program coordinator for AIA California. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. As you get settled, a few housekeeping reminders. Please do not use the chat box to ask any questions for today's panelists. Instead, use the Q&A feature. With this feature, attendees can like a question to move it to the top of the list. Today's session will highlight how Kuth Ranieri Architects has used collaboration to partner on a variety of projects of different scopes and sizes. This session qualifies for one AIA learning unit for those who have watched live, and AIA California staff will report those units for you once you have finished today's session. Now, to quickly introduce our presenter, Elizabeth Vernier is Managing Principal of Kuth Ranieri Architects and co-founded the firm with her partner Byron in 1990. Byron Kuth is the design principal of Kuth Ranieri Architects, and he founded with his co-founder Elizabeth in 1990. Thank you both for being here today, and I will hand it over to you now, Liz.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Please let me know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, if the show is starting.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So thanks for the introduction and greetings to all of you from San Francisco. Byron and I appreciate your invitation to share what our experience has been in practice. And we chose to focus on the value of collaboration because as a small firm, it's been the key to broadening our opportunities to work on large-scale infrastructural projects, as well as expanding new sectors such as aviation, education, cultural, workplace, and sports facilities. Our interest in teaming grew from our education at RISD, where the architecture program strongly emphasized a collaborative approach to design. And that spirit carries through how we've structured our practice today. Our goal has been to work on a diversity of project types rather than specialize. And we knew the founding of a generalist practice would be challenging. Collaboration is something that can really happen at any scale and across disciplines. What we most care about is the planning and crafting of beautiful experiences. What we are not focused on creating is a signature architecture. In fact, we're looking for quite the opposite, an architecture that's rooted in its environment, its users and use, and seeing architecture as a crafted reflection of the aspirations of current culture. And we recognize that getting the best design built we can means collaborating, sometimes with other architects, as well as with landscape architects, engineers, and in some cases, working with artists.
So we're a nimble team of designers. We have offices in the Bay Area and also the Boston region. We work on public and private projects that range anywhere from park pavilions to homes, community museums, and airports. We've had a lot of experience in very structured collaborations and joint ventures, associations, as well as consultant roles. We see essentially collaboration as an add value. The development and construction industries are collaborative by nature. And so design is really no different. Teaming leverages a breadth of skills and knowledge sets of all team members, which equals a value proposition that ultimately, enhances the project in the end. We can look at a new slide. As for our partnerships, we've collaborated extensively with firms in projects both in California and Massachusetts. And we really began our collaborative approach to practice a decade ago by participating in a unique program that the San Francisco community has to encourage participation for small businesses, or LBEs as they're known. On city projects, additional points in the scoring are available to teams with an LBE partner. So from there, our partnerships have included joint ventures with Gensler on the SFO's new Harvey Milk Terminal, as well as associate architect on the new Chase Center Arena for the Golden State Warriors. Other partnerships have included the International Terminal Refresh Project at SFO again, and a joint venture that was with SOM and SAO Design. Also, SFO's Connector Administration Building that was in partnership with HOK. We've continued on within the city on a new STEM building out at City College with SmithGroup, as well as the new Gene Friend Recreation Center with Mark Cavaniero and Associates. I think we'll look at some projects early on here with the renovation of the Randall Museum, which we did with Fowl Long, now Perkins and Will, and also we'll take a look at Balboa Park renovation with ELS, Architecture and Urban Design. And essentially what we want to do across the course of this lecture is to walk you through some of these projects and share the kinds of opportunities we've had through collaboration. As Liz mentioned, a small business, we've been able to work on significantly scaled building designs and construction, as well as absorbing best practices into our own project delivery.
Yes, as Byron mentioned, this was the first project that we did for the city of San Francisco, the Randall Museum renovation with our good friend Peter Fowl. And it's a renovation of a community museum and rec center for Rec and Park, and it sits atop the hill at Corona Heights, just above the Castro. It was designed by one of our favorite Bay Area modernists, William Merchant, and it's been in operation since 1951. And any partnership has to make sense. And in this case, Fowl Long had extensive experience with educational spaces, and we brought experience in rescripting mid-century buildings, as well as museum exhibit design. This concrete workhorse has performed quite well over the decades. What we did is really provide improvements in the character, accessibility, and the reconfiguration of the interiors, as well as reorganizing the public spaces to flow better to connect to the outside. And of course, collaboration goes beyond the design team's partnership, as the scope included extensive renovation of the museum's programs. Working with its many stakeholders was key. Rec and Park, the museum's leadership, board of trustees and staff, as well as the users, the families and friends of the Randall, a nonprofit that runs the museum day to day. The lobby, gallery, and live animal exhibit rooms were the highest of priorities. Other programs included adding new interpretive ecological exhibits, expanding program spaces for a science lab, a STEM classroom, ceramics and painting studios, a wood shop, offices, a new multi-purpose space, and grab-and-go cafe. The lobby gallery here is, really you can see from the main lobby, you're looking toward the live animal room. And the project ultimately is a story of two materials, the building being concrete, the existing building, and all of our new interventions being crafted from wood. These glue lamps serve as the primary structure for the animal room enclosure, dubbed the tree wall. And the assembly performs several functions, supporting bird habitats, revolving exhibits, geological and specimen collections, study carrels, interactive technology, seating, and sliding panels to open and close the room between the lobby and main spaces. And by reconfiguring the floor plate, we're able to create new public spaces that directly flow to the outdoors. To take advantage of the museum's surrounding site, you can take in spectacular views of the city of San Francisco. And a lot has changed, of course, in our understanding of the natural world, so updating the interpretive exhibits was key. Working with animal care experts and exhibit designers, we reorganized the exhibitions by habitat versus by specimen. So riparian, chaparral, desert, urban, all mirroring what happens in nature. And each exhibit is a volume that floats in the space, which allows viewing from all sides and maximizes potential interaction with the animals. Overall, we're able to create healthier spaces, a new level of transparency with the exhibits, and promote a new intuitive wayfinding, and open the building up for more natural ventilation and light. In our experience, mid-century buildings have great bones, and in some ways, their simplicity and neutrality allow for the opportunities to introduce new ideas, new materials that can extend the original concept of the building, but most importantly, contemporize its programs for current and future users.
So the Balboa Park Pool was our second project for San Francisco Department of Rec and Parks, and it was done in joint venture with ELS Architecture, a firm that has extensive experience in aquatic facilities and specifically in auditoriums. This project, again, was under the SF mandate for the inclusion of LBE partners for public buildings. And collaborations, in essence, are always a dance. I mean, sometimes we will put together the marriage by considering carefully who we want to partner with, but other times we are contacted by firms of all different sorts, whether they're engineers, architects, to collaborate with them on pursuits. In this instance, we reached out to ELS ourselves from ELS, a firm from the East Coast, and developed together a strategy to award the project. So the existing natatorium, a mid-century building from 1950s, was in disrepair and built as a standalone recreational facility. From this, it sort of required a strategic approach to save the shell, reconfigure nearly every aspect of the facility. The program included a revitalization of the pool, the natatorium, the head building, as well as updating all structural and environmental systems. The building was essentially a hermetic structure that was not welcoming, and nor did it relate successfully to the surrounding park. So by minimally modifying the perimeter, reworking the floor plan, we were able to really create an inviting approach, an entry, an interior that opened up amazing views between the pool and the park, which was part of our essential objective. We also recognized that in addition to reviving this historic asset, we would need to refashion it very differently to accommodate the ways people use community pools now. So our goal was to expand this paradigm that the building was built under of health and fitness and transform that and change the facility into a thriving neighborhood center to support the intergenerational communities of families, seniors, high school swim teams, and even water ballet teams. So this involved a series of public meetings to bring forward community desires, which again furthered the collaborative nature of this design process. And seeing a real need for the building to be more than a recreational destination, we pulled essentially a rabbit out of a hat. By doing that, we designed very efficient support spaces, and then we had the room within the shell itself to introduce a community room within the existing envelope. And from that, we could provide a public space for gathering and community events, which was really essential to transforming this facility. In looking out from 35,000 feet above, the important idea was connecting the pool to the community. And it was key to connect the building and its access to the surrounding and park and neighborhood as well. So we designed a new entry canopy, parking areas, and improved traffic flow, drop-off area, and enhanced accessibility. And working with landscape architect Jeff Miller from here in San Francisco, our goal is to reconnect the building to the neighborhood by redesigning a new civic threshold and a clear path of entry with discrete landscaping elements and artful lane striping. We developed an informality at the entry area, and we thought of it as an outdoor room where visitors can gather, wait for family, or engage in team pickup and drop off. And for us, this area of the building is still very much a part of the park, part of the neighborhood. And so when you kind of extend this informality into the entry, we are able to expose kind of the original structure, creating a kind of a fluid, dramatic, and welcoming lobby. Security here was also a key priority in reorganizing the arrival sequence. And wayfinding also was key to the articulation lobby, in which community room, pool, changing areas were all easily able to be located by all the different users. So heading into the changing areas, the locker rooms, we learned what the priorities were from the swimmers and able to resize and reorganize the changing rooms and change them really dramatically. From there, we made them more efficient, and yet we were able to create a sense of openness and light, of course, by bringing in natural daylight. And finally, getting to the pool itself, I mean, ELS was really instrumental along with ADG in rehabilitating the pool. But the mural at the end, of the space of the natatorium really perfectly captured the enthusiasm of the community. I mean, on opening day, the head of DPW jumped into the pool fully clothed. And so it seemed to represent the kind of idea that we're looking for of connecting building and facility to community. The mural itself, if you want to go back for a sec, is really the work of local artist Jason Jael. And we work with the San Francisco Arts Commission to develop that selection for that huge, big 37 by 13 foot artwork mural. And finally, to upgrade the systems, introduce natural light, and promote access to views, it required an introduction of a whole new curtain wall system throughout the entire building, but also bringing along with that the seismic upgrades that were required. Again, the biggest moves, though, we're focusing on connecting the pool back to the park and to the neighborhood to really make it a vital resource for the community for all the generations to follow. So I think we want to jump to a more significant project and one that has really dominated our collaboration and our staffing. As a joint venture partner to Gensler for the past 7 years, we've been able to collaborate on the onset of the Hard Milk Terminal 1 SFO airport project. So we were engaged prior to the selection process, and we worked together with Gensler on a design vision that won the team the commission. That's how we started out. But in addition to working on all the design, construction, and construction documents for the terminal itself, we also collaborated with Gensler on the design and delivery of a co-location workspace for 200 plus professionals, dubbed the Big Room, which houses the entire joint venture teams for architectural collaborations. Actually, this project facilitated one of the largest collaborations in San Francisco's built history. So bringing together architects, engineers, managers, general contractors, as well as all the stakeholders for the airport itself in meeting spaces and work areas was really an extraordinary kind of collaboration. I think Liz is going to talk a little bit about that. And I want to say, go back, Liz, for just a sec. And you want to say so the airport is sort of organized off 101. You're very familiar with it. If not, you can see that it's designed as a donut, and the terminals flank that ring road around the central parking. And that L-shaped piece is the terminal and boarding area B. And then the yellow square off to the left is what we're calling the Big Room. And it lives adjacent to warehouses and other airport facilities off a frontage road that leads into the airport itself. So maybe Liz, you talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I just wanted to mention that along with Gensler and being in joint venture on this very amazing partnership over the last 7 years, our lead, our prime is Hensel Phelps, and it's been amazing to work with them on this project. So SFO's vision for the Big Room for us might be one of the most interesting collaborations that we've engaged in. The Big Room, as Byron mentioned, houses the entire T1 design build teams, and it sits within an existing airplane hangar. And given the complexity of the two capital projects that comprise Terminal 1, this is $2.4 billion of construction. The expectation that two separate design build teams would bring together at the same time boarding area B and Terminal 1 and deliver them as an integrated project, I think could only be successful by co-locating in the same space. So as Byron mentioned, the space is for 200, and it's laid out to be both efficient and flexible, where the combination of the teams could meet, generate, develop ideas, and present designs to the airport's many stakeholder groups. The Big Room was a fast-track project. It was the first make-ready project, designed, permitted, and delivered in 9 months with a budget of $10 million. And this office environment in an airplane hangar is really a building inside a building and located adjacent to the air train and within minutes of SFO. And here you can get a sense of the scale of the space within this monumental volume. And it's challenging aligning this ready-made project with building codes, but we were actually able to meet a LEED Silver equivalent. Just want to step back a sec. Well, also what was interesting was that this hangar space, this interstitial space between the hangar and the outside of the Big Room, provided these expansive areas for constructing full-scale mock-ups, which we could test everything from new baggage transport systems to bathroom assemblies, art display systems, and custom cabinetry. And the overarching goal for this workplace was that it was not only comfortable to work in on site, but for the environment to actually foster real-time collaboration between the design teams and SFO leadership, management, numerous stakeholders from including everything from airlines down to operations. And the center and the hearth of this project is really the centralized kitchen and critique space. with the larger plan is organized like a town with neighborhoods and a main street and public gathering zones. And this is very much the main piazza, so to speak. And here public presentations range everything from formal stakeholders to daily meeting updates, lunch and learns, community meals. And this all brought the full office together.
You know, we also had like a big room band. So that's where we performed. And so it was stretched out far beyond architecture and interiors into a significant cultural and collaborative effort.
I don't think you'll find them on Spotify.
No, we weren't quite ready for prime time on that.
But the neighborhood zones, as we refer to them, are really, they're identified, even though the space is open, these zones are identifiable by changes in floor, ceiling treatments, wall assemblies, and even the arrangement of furniture. And in order to support all the tasks and various work styles, the big room offers a finer grain of more specialized smaller spaces, with some areas with dedicated desks and others with touchdown. So the question really is, how can the design of a space itself promote collaboration? And, you know, it means it has to have a sort of a level of openness, right? And there's, you know, we really plan for ample space for testing materials and products. And it was very much set up to accommodate large scale samples, as well as areas that many, you know, everybody from reps and leadership could really review what was happening in real time. And here the overall character of the big room is in fact, you know, what we wanted it to be, a work in progress. I mean, we felt if it's all finished, it doesn't send the right signal of design thinking and discovery of the appropriate concepts. It was really designed to embrace happenstance and grit and fun, which can be attributed to, in part, to the fast track timeline of the design build. And, you know, as well as the sort of feeling that we were going for in the space where anything could happen. One could just walk over to an engineer's desk, ask a question, and all of a sudden you have a collaboration that's very spontaneous and focused on the work that had to be done. And of course, you know, there were more segregated conference spaces and huddle rooms along the western edge, which offered for some privacy as well as enclosed and open meeting areas, recreation, and even some game zones. And despite the carnivorous space and the beehive-like activity of the big room, much thought was really put into developing spaces where individuals could find retreat and solace in small breakout spaces, as well as little phone booths and even a meditation space.
Well, going from the smallest rooms in the big room, as you were describing, Liz, and jumping really from the big room to the really big room, the scale of the Harvey Milk Terminal accommodates over 16 million passengers per year and is served by over 35,000 employees. It's way more than just a village. So again, working with Gensler on the design for the new 1.1 million square foot terminal, we oversaw the construction as a design build delivery, as Liz mentioned, with Hensel Phelps. And this new terminal replaced one of the airport's oldest terminals. And it was designed to meet the needs of modern travelers and really trying to revolutionize the guest experience within the travel industry. At the onset, the Harvey Milk Terminal it welcomes you, and it's the first terminal along the necklace of terminals, which is that ring road that we described earlier on. And this graceful curve of the new facade draws you right along the vehicular ring road leading to all the other terminals. Here, right away, the new curbside and drop-off areas welcome passengers to a whole new experience of air travel. So in looking at the plan for this, you can see down to the lower left, the ring road as it surrounds the parking. And then flanking that is this crescent space, which really is what the terminal is located. And then sprouting off of that are these branches, the boarding area B, and also at the top, the boarding area C. And from there, all its numerous, loading areas you can see from that. So the scope of the project really included a new central area for passenger check-in, consolidated security points, and a recompose area, a new baggage handling system, baggage claim, and office mezzanine. Concessions also featured local and international vendor services. And following the airport's sustainable program for design and operations, the new terminal is targeted for a LEED Gold certification. And so early on in the design process, we developed these narratives for the journey plan. I mean, for us, it was really putting on more of our literary hats and developing episodic events and stories that would engage the guests as they travel along the length of the airport. And as an overall concept, we arrived at a theme, what we called Bay Area Naturalism. And this was to ground the SFO travel experience as a unique and regional destination. So it really put forward SFO, very different than other urban airports, to really define what was essential about California, what was essential about the Bay Area, and have the terminal work to express that. So for the most part, we worked alongside Gensler as a kind of a stacked integrated team, but there were, specific specific areas that were discrete zones. I mean, here is an example of that, the sculpture plaza here outside of Terminal 1. It was designed to, to receive as much attention as any of the prime areas. And also these smaller areas that got assigned to many of the teams were unique as the terminals themselves. I mean, here the outdoor sculpture, what it animates is actually a more mundane service area. So heading into the terminal itself, the kind of light and airy departures hall, it greets passengers as they navigate towards the high-tech new check-in desks and baggage collection systems. What was essential, again, in looking at the passenger journey, which was always embedded within our thinking about the design and development of both spaces and elements of the project and furniture. It was really designed to be one of discovery and surprise. An essential part of this journey was the Art Enrichment Program. I mean, SFO has the largest airport museum in the world, and in our collection, as significant as any major art museum. They have significant curatorial staff and rotating exhibits that go up year-round. So for us, it was really essential. I mean, our office participated in the art planning, placement, and installation of artworks. We also worked with the San Francisco Arts Commission on strategy and artist selections. We worked intimately with the chosen artists on specific site installations, as well as curated areas, and also the SFO staff, and working with them on exhibit spaces to showcase the works from our collaboration. And again, this was a tremendous opportunity for our office, given our interest and passion for art and the environment and infrastructure. I mean, here is an example of an Ingle Nook. It has openings that view into the security checkpoints, and they were great locations for art installations. I mean, here is a tribute to Harvey Milk, which also provides a quiet space to relax, compose oneself for travel. And if you can't improve the planes, at least you can work on humanizing the port. Again, another example of corridors leading to the hold rooms, or the boarding gates as they're called. The darkened spaces let passengers really take their time to explore the exhibits, both in galleries and rotating shows. I mean, every aspect of the community was considered. The children's areas are thoughtfully designed to provoke delight in both kids, parents, and adults alike. Landscape, art, circulation, restaurant, shops, all provide opportunities to enhance the user experience, which is what we really focused on. And then just in the general, articulation and development of spaces and circulation, this is a grand stair from the departures mezzanine. It leads up to the future home of security checkpoints and also additional clubs. There's here a view to the mezzanine and the oculus, bringing daylight and day of time into the deeper parts of the building. And then, of course, the grand stair again from another perspective, but the views out into the airfield as well. So you're always, looking at distant views and close views. It's kind of it's an experience that's constantly modulated throughout the whole journey. So in getting down to the arrivals level, for us, our team worked extensively on this space and organized it, as well as the back of house and baggage delivery, which included all the utilities and security systems. We worked on the development of the look and feel, here composed of natural materials and sort of sinuous gestures. And it goes back to this concept of Bay Area naturalism in trying to represent California's rugged coastline with its abundance of natural beauty and drama, all reflected in the airport experience. And also then we went on to do a project right after this with Gensler. Maybe Liz, talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Byron. So about 3 years into our collaboration with Gensler at SFO, they selected us as their small business partner to work with them on the Golden State Warriors Chase Arena. The scope included the design of the interiors, as well as the Esplanade, which is the new retail street that would wrap the base of the arena, and all the transitions at the perimeter of the block. The Chase Arena is an entire city block south of San Francisco's ballpark. It really anchors the Mission Bay waterfront. The arena complex broke ground in January of 2017 and opened its doors right before the pandemic in September of 19. Happy to report that they're back in business and everything is now in full swing. And unlike other partnerships, this one really expanded beyond our association with Gensler to the arena architect, Manica, the architect of record, Kendall Heaton, the contractor joint venture team, Clark Mortensen, developers including Strata, and landscape architect SWA. And the process required engagement of multiple stakeholders, including ownership, sponsors, food and beverage, retail consultants, along with a key participant, the City of San Francisco's Office of Community Infrastructure and Investment, OCII. It's really the redevelopment authority that oversaw the project. Our first scope was to design one of the two main arena access points. This is the main lobby off of the 3rd Street Plaza. What followed that was the theater lobby off of the Terry Francois Boulevard facing the waterfront. In this lobby, this multi-level main lobby off of the 3rd Street Plaza is about 14,000 square feet. And working on the lobbies provided a really interesting opportunity for us to design, transitional spaces between the workings of the arena and the public plaza to the exterior. And these spaces needed to be highly functional and fluid, such that 18,000 show and game goers could really swiftly navigate and find their way to their seat very quickly. We wanted the lobbies to feel like an extension of the building's exterior gestures and ribbons, and thinking about how can we bring that fluidity into the interior. We made the decision to clad the stairs, ramps, and escalators with shifting enclosures in warm wood tones. And these gestures really assist in wayfinding and integrate the vision of the exterior with that of the interiors. I mean, these lobbies are on the periphery of the arena, and because of the curtain wall transforms that at the point of the lobbies becomes very transparent. You can see these lobbies from the theater lobby from the water, and the main lobby from just right off of 3rd Street. They're very elevational. And then moving to the exterior of the block, additional scope included the design of the Esplanade, as I had mentioned, the retail street, and the Esplanade sits 23 feet above grade. So lots of issues around how to get the public from street grade up to the elevated Esplanade level. And it really serves as a new public amenity plaza, which connects the arena to the Mission Bay neighborhood. It has retail, restaurants, public gardens, and a significant stair that connects the elevated Esplanade to the street level on the northeast corner. And though there are several public access points around the perimeter of the block, this northeast corner is really the most celebrated connection. And it was designed very much as a multi-level social plaza. Yet the Esplanade and Grand Stair link the city from 3rd Street to Terry Francois Boulevard, waterfront, and offers open views to the Bay Area estuary beyond. SF MoMA actually partnered with Chase on the public art program, works from Calder, Noguchi, and Eliason. And this mixed-use project really anchors Mission Bay as a district and neighborhood. And it was completed on schedule. Sustainability was a major focus throughout the project, which led to its LEED Gold status. And BIM was crucial to the project delivery, as it was the tool for completing construction documentation, of course, but also coordination between all of the many consultants. But ultimately, given the number of contributors to this mega project, it's really an amazing model for what it takes to successfully collaborate on such an undertaking. So a little bit about what's on the boards now. These are active projects and partnerships that we're engaged in. Byron had mentioned the Smith Group on the new steam building in City College. We are moving to SFO Harvey Mills Terminal 1 North, the next section of the project. We're still underway with SFO's connector building with HOK, and a little project in the East Coast office, a new harbor master building on Cape Cod with Mott McDonald. And though we won't share details about these various projects, Byron will talk about one, and it's Lion Mountain Park, a 75-acre park renovation project in Suzhou, China, which was a collaboration with Tom Leader, landscape architect.
So at the same time we were doing the projects that we've been describing, the airport to the Chase Arena, these larger, mega projects, we also stayed with the smaller, more intimate scale projects that really brought us into our practice as we arrived out here on the West Coast. And so we kept on moving west, and this is a project that we work with Tom Leader with in China. And it's in Suzhou, and there is a sort of rapid densification of housing there in that community. It was a park, it was an old amusement park that needed restoration and an addition of major programs and expansions, the introduction of a lake and a forest and ecologically diverse programming to really enhance the encroaching urbanism. So here, the way it was developed was a new circular park promenade, 2 kilometers in length. It connects the variety of existing features and new park structures, including the flower tea house pavilion, the sports pavilion, the public restroom, cypress tea houses, and picnic pavilions. And key to this transformation, of course, is the rich and layered landscape of the promenade, which connects, again, the city to the lake, Lion Mountain, forest, and pavilions. So in thinking about this, and our participation was developing along with Tom, the master plan was identifying programs and pavilions that really supported and enhanced this sort of promenade. The first of which was a tea house, which now in China, these tea houses are becoming more like the coffee house of the 60s for gathering and discourse. This particular building was at the intersection of the bridge leading to extensive and new housing developments. Also it connected to the path, the promenade, but it was embedded in these flower gardens that really surrounded this whole area of the new park. Another building we worked on was the sports pavilion. We introduced a simple vocabulary in all of these buildings of steel, glass, wood, and local brick. And in the development of these, we kind of transformed all these materials, put them into different positions, but they remain consistent throughout all the structures. The pavilions really represented actually thresholds that were linked to the promenade. And there was always a pathway from the promenade into natural forested areas. And so here you can see the sports pavilion. It was a badminton, which is quite popular sport there. And it was designed around courts, with generous spaces for gathering and cafes, but all of that pressed up against a wooded area at the base of Lion Mountain. Again, the restrooms represent this threshold, linking promenade and gardens. And of course, this, we looked at you've got kids and a family and you're waiting for someone to come out of that restroom. We want to develop a whole integrated place for rest and viewing and gathering. The footbridge was an interesting little piece of this. It was where the promenade crosses a small stream and the path becomes a moment to reflect and connect back to Lion Mountain, which you can kind of see in some of the small images off to the right. It was constructed again from this natural palette of materials, but it was meant to blend in with the surrounding forest, feel like almost it was part of the canopy. But we introduced a generous tallback bench and steps that cascaded down to the stream, all providing a social area for gathering and looking back onto Lion Mountain and the surrounding nature. Trying to introduce this really substantial, natural and environmentally progressive place within the new expanding city. On the other side of the lake, the projects also included these tea houses, and it was much closer to the city center, so it's a little more urban. And we tried to take a large pavilion and then break it down into smaller pavilions. So you can start to see how at the shoreline there's a large tea house, and from there the small individual pavilions kind of were tucked in amongst the cypress groves. And here's a view of that and the approach for the more urban areas of Suzhou.
And I just want to mention that again, one thing that's consistent with all of these pavilions that sit on the ring road is that each building is a threshold. It's a bridge between that promenade and what's happening on the internal landscape. So each one was designed as a threshold, and you can see it here, both in plan and in the rendering.
Yeah, many of them led from the promenade into the park. This one led from the promenade into the lake, which is really interesting. And so, from there were all these small, discrete picnic pavilions, and they were arranged as an archipelago, which was connected by a whole series of boardwalks and lookouts, all at a very intimate, tactile scale, which is really where we like to keep our practice engaged, but along with some of these larger, more infrastructural projects. I think that's all we've got for this. Oh yeah.
Few more things.
There we are.
And of course, all this work happens in our own internal collaboration. This is our office, and everybody brings a unique voice and expertise. We're a very horizontal structure. We use each other as resources, and everyone is either very aware of each project or has some hand in what's happening in each project in the office. And we just wanted to share this in closing. Even before COVID, we had to work extra hard to stay connected as a team. Given our numerous joint ventures, we'd have people at the airport, we'd have people in various offices on a number of active projects. And in order to maintain our culture of making, we entered the San Francisco prototyping competition. And to our delight, our proposal was accepted, and we actually took the People's Prize, which surprised us. But internally, it gave us a chance as a group of people to make something together. And this is a pavilion. It's 12 by 12 by 12 feet. It's made out of sonotubes and built outside in sections.
In our backyard.
In our backyard.
Chucked in little pieces, and you could see we had to really design how it could be disassembled and reassembled on site.
Yeah, and if any of you have ever gone to the San Francisco Prototyping Festival, it's all along Market, and it's just a series of built pavilions, but you only have about 12 hours to construct it. So the team worked through the night, and then it's temporary. It's up for a couple of days. But this particular project, after its life on the San Francisco streets, found a new home in the big room.
Yeah.
So it was a social space that was living in that kind of interstitial space between the big room and the hangar. Anyway, but internally, it gave us a chance to do a couple of things, to make something as a group, but also to kind of, we get very interested in materials and off-the-shelf components, and we'll play with them for a period of time. So here, hence the sonotube as an exploration, and what can be done, what can be done or discovered about a particular product or a materiality. They all have their inherent baggage, but we consistently believe that new things can be done with old construction methods.
Well,
so
I think maybe more important, Liz, actually, is maintaining a studio culture. Even though we do participate in these large teams, people work for us in regards to how we function as a practice and a studio and as a family of designers. So I think, always we are looking for opportunities to sustain and encourage that. It's part of our ethos.
Okay. And on that note, we're happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. This has been so interesting and just beautiful, and I have enjoyed it. I'm not an architect at all, but it's been amazing and informative, and we do have a few questions. So Christopher asks, do you typically bring the project to partner and joint firms, or do they usually bring you into the project? Which firms have the initial client contact?
Byron, do you want to field that, or would you like me to?
Well, there's so many different ways to do this. And there have been so many pursuits that we have, sent out the door. And these are the ones that we won, and that's great. But there are plenty that we didn't. So there's all kinds of exercises in us finding out about a particular project, maybe even before it hits the news. We're starting to organize our teams around structure, partnering, MEP. We're putting teams together in advance to anticipating the publication of an RFP. Sometimes we will put that together and search out the right and appropriate partners, but many times we are connected. I think we have a significant reputation within the city, and people find us to partner on. We've got 2 as-needed projects with the city. Those are LBE partnerships, and so I believe both of those were, folks contacting us and wanting us to participate with them in these partnerships. But Liz, maybe you have a few words to say about the diversity of how we come to these partnerships.
I think, as Byron mentioned, at times we put the team together, at other times people approach us. The story has to make sense about why you're working together. But for us, we're really interested in all project types. And we've been able to, through these partnerings, we've been able to really grow our experience. Before SFO, we had never done an airport. Before Balboa, we had never done a pool. And so this has been the real benefit. And I think being at our scale, being small, we're very nimble. The success of these partnerships, I think, are very much a relationship. So regardless of what you signed up for in the beginning, everybody recognize what needs to happen as a project evolves, and roles change, and we can see where voids are. And the best partnership is when you read each other's minds. But of course, that's not always possible. But the next best thing is very transparent, good communication.
Great. The next question is, at what point in the firm's history did you first approach a project as a collaboration with other firms? Did they come to you first, or did you approach them? And then are projects typically arrived at by invitation or competition for selection? So it's kind of an offshoot of the answer that you just gave. But
okay.
Well, maybe a little bit of history. We came out to the West Coast, in 1990, Liz? We taught for many years, and we also had a small practice in which we engaged a whole array of different scales and mediums. And then maybe, Liz, you can talk a little bit about, because Liz is relentless, I'll tell you, and she really launched our partnering and the relationships that really led to that part of our practice.
Well, I think because we taught for many years, we had a small practice. Our opportunities were very modest in scale for building projects. They were mostly residential and small cultural projects. At the same time, we continued to do competition work, open design competitions that were everything from master planning to infrastructural projects, much larger scale. So we're working on paper, large scale, and in reality, small scale. And after we came out of the 2008 recession, we really wanted to see, can we get there? Can we change scale and practice? Can we have the opportunities to work on larger larger things, larger propositions. And it was really an interest in trying to jump scale that and registering as an LBE, a small business, that we started to identify these opportunities to join larger teams and bring our design thinking and our experience at the finer grain to larger projects. And to answer your question about what was our first into this, the Randall Museum was our first collaboration for the city of San Francisco. And we had met Peter Pfau through teaching at CCA. And many of our partners we've known over the years. And so part of it is just saying, hey, do you want to work on this together? And it came out of a personal relationship, a friendship. But that was a very important project for us, because from that, it set the sort of the template for how amazing this could be to continue our education, in a sense, through learning how other offices practice and really blending our strengths to win work.
Wonderful. So the next question, Nico asks, what software and apps are you using to collaborate with your teams?
So we are, we're working on probably the largest BIM model in the Bay Area, which would be T1's model, that we have people in the office that are supporting its management and its curation. So Revit, BIM, of course, we communicate through Teams. And as far as software for modeling, everything from, pulling, 3D modeling directly out of our Revit program to simultaneously looking at something in Rhino. We also are still an office that builds physical models. And so it's really, I think there's no one tool or software that helps to define a project. It's really the bringing together of all of these tools, everything from looking at energy performance, sun studies, the actual look and feel, depending on, virtual reality and augmented reality. I think if you look at, digital tools as an extension of hand tools, and really seeing it's the collective of these tools that bring the best design forward. That's our approach. That's how we think about it.
I think that, in terms of connectivity, Bluebeam and Miro are, programs that you're almost like in the same room with someone. It's that immediate. So we try and rely, and we keep on developing that as part of our toolkit. But to say that, we started these projects a while back. And so for us, the kind of connectivity that we were able to achieve across these collaborations made COVID a very, very simple transition for us. And it was almost, you said to just shift over a couple millimeters and then carry on within, remote work within our own office. And now we're coming back. And so we're looking forward really to the next year and bringing back that earlier sense of studio culture community.
Definitely, yeah, that hybrid workplace before the pandemic definitely helped a lot of people transition when it happened. So it's definitely what I've been hearing a lot, that folks had that kind of implementation and then they were able to easily pivot.
Yeah, it was seamless. Yeah.
So the next, and it looks like the final question, so just make sure attendees, if you do have any more questions, to get them into the Q&A now. But it looks like Nazarene said, how does the fee structure work in this type of partnership? For example, the airport project.
Okay, so each joint venture and association is different. Typically, it's divided by percentage of fee. So for example, the Randall Museum was 50-50 joint venture split. Others are 60-40. And in the case of SFO, it's 15-85. So with that is, division of labor. Now, I think the models that have worked really, really well have been where the team is fully integrated, at least through 50% DD. And then from that point, there's a division of scope in order to be efficient. But those terms are set up front in the fee structure and joint venture agreement. In the case of Chase Arena, we were the 35% business partner to Gensler. So that was an association versus a joint venture. But I think ultimately, as we discussed earlier, regardless of what the terms of the agreement, you're all fully responsible for what's happening. And that's the mindset to craft a successful collaboration and therefore a successful project.
Yeah, I mean, it's well known before we enter into it. I mean, with the development of work plans, the schedules, all of that has been agreed upon through, let's just say, the JV agreement, also the management plan. It's very specific. So you try and eliminate any surprises. I think as the project moves forward through sometimes VE, but also in many cases ad service. So all of that has to be really well crafted. So there's a really, clear path as to how maybe work, ends up in someone else's court kind of in a special way, or gets shared between the two firms. And a lot of that is a constant negotiation. And Liz was saying, like, communication and transparency is, in all aspects of it, really help to make that successful.
And we've been really, really fortunate. Our partners have been fantastic in these collaborations.
That's just great. Oh my goodness. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. A lot of comments in the chat that are super inspiring, wonderful presentation, and I absolutely agree. I want to just thank you both for being here for this very exciting and informative presentation. And if there are no other questions, I can let the attendees know that if you have made it this far, we will submit you for your AIA CE credit, and it will appear on your transcripts in a few weeks. And as always, additional resources and tools can be found on AIA California's website. More details about upcoming webinars and how to register will be made available to you in a follow-up email in addition to the recording of this presentation. That will come to you in about a week. And aside from that, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Byron. It was wonderful. And we hope that everyone enjoys their day. And we just loved your presentation. I'm just looking at all the chat comments, and it's just wonderful and all very well deserved. It was great. Thank you, guys.
Well,
We appreciate you having us.
We really appreciate your invitation. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.